Hello viewers, Pagani Gaming here and welcome back to another wheel-to-wheel racing video. This time it's now round 2 at Blue Moon in Field A. Still in the McLaren, we're in the Group 4 variant now, also known as the GT4s. The McLaren GT4 is a very different animal compared to the GT3. It being that the GT4 has a better top end in this category compared to the Group 3s. Completely different ends of the spectrum. The Group 4 is very strong, but the Group 3 is really not the best one to have. We set a qualifying time of a 13.478, was good enough for P3, lining up behind Lucky in the Super and ZD in the Acura NSX. Getting off to a pretty decent start here, still gaining on a little bit on ZD and Lucky here, making Lucky think a little bit about us going on the inside. We were never really going to try and commit to that move, but made him get a little bit under pressure and open the door up for ZD, who them two pretty much battled for the entirety of the race. So it being race 1, the race layout was a hard tyre, no stops, 8 laps. So this was pretty much a race where you just go as hard as you can and no form of conserving your tyres or your fuel or anything at all really, and just go as hard as you can on the worst racing tyre, which made for some pretty decent racing. We can see Dodgy and Troy behind us going up for scuffling for some positions. But next lap around, ZD missing his braking marker just a little bit, opens the door up for us, go up on the inside of him, but unfortunately for us, the next corner is a left turn, so that does give ZD that inside line, and he takes second again. And that's pretty much all that happened for that race. Nothing much more happened after that, and we ended up finishing P3. A pretty decent result. We knew where we were within the league, and we were pretty happy with a P3 compared to the other drivers around us. On to race 2 now. We ended up qualifying in P5 after a 1 hot lap shootout. Race 2, it was a soft tyre 12 lap race, so qualifying as high as possible would have been ideal. Unfortunately, we didn't get the best quali run. We missed our last corner, and that really did cost us for our time. So ended up moving down here into 7th. We didn't really want to drop more down than what we already were, but it being one of the races where tyre conserve was ideal, we ended up taking a knee to a few drivers, that being Dodgy and Troy, but knowing that in the long run we would eventually pass them. So we were temporarily up into 6th, then we dropped back down to 7th as Troy did have the inside line. We also wanted to stay in front of the Palmer, who was in the Mustang and the Corvette around here. Preferably most front-engine rear-wheel drive cars aren't the best for these types of races. They do tend to burn through their fronts very quickly compared to other cars, and not a car you really want to be sticking behind for one of these races. So once again in front of him as quickly as possible. McLaren's top end showing its strength, getting past Dodgy here on lap 6, and then doing the same to Midriski here on lap 7. So we're making some progress here at this stage, going up a few positions, and then come to lap 9 we see ZD and Troy battling out. ZD keeping Troy really shallow into the corner. That was a perfect opportunity for us to try and make up some time between them two. So we see Troy, who got a bit choked up by ZD there, coming to the first corner. We're now right up behind Troy here, and unfortunately for us, we're going to a bit of entanglement here with Troy. I don't think this was much more than a pure connection issue. Troy was made aware, I believe, from admins of the league that his internet connection was a bit iffy, and he did have some internet connection issues also the round prior. So in my honest opinion, I believe that was nothing more than a connection issue / racing incident, so I see no need for me to back off and redress that incident. But a few laps later, we end up catching up to Uthrolik, who was our teammate, who was leading the race for some time. And the Porsche was an absolute banger off the start lines. That's why he got promoted up into P1. So we go up on the outside of him, try and get a nice undercut. We don't want to hamper our teammate too much. We also knew that Uthrolik was struggling on his tyres, so we didn't want to push him too hard. Unfortunately, we might have done a little bit there, having him been put in the wall, I think a little bit under pressure. That did also allow Midriski to get back into the picture again, so we had to really fight to defend that position. Fortunately for us, Uthrolik did see that we were struggling and decided to get in front of us and give us a bit of a tow. There's some good teamwork there on Uthrolik's end, and we go for a really beautiful move here, a nice undercut promoting ourselves up into P3, now to the podium. So back where we were in the first race, now into P3, and there's the exact same 2 drivers ahead of us, Izidi and Lucky. Unfortunately, we ended up going a little bit wide there. That did open the door up for Madriski to get up on the inside there and now take 3rd away from us. But we weren't too concerned about that. The Mercedes being one of those front engine rear wheel drive cars, his tyres were really starting to struggle. So we see here Madriski messing up his inside line. We choke him out on the last few set of corners here and go for a really nice underpass switcheroo on the inside of Madriski here. A very smart move on our end, choking him up and compromising his line. And that's all we could really do. Unfortunately, Zedi and Lucky were too far ahead. We almost did lose 3rd position again to Madriski. So we had to really try and compromise Madriski here to make sure he didn't get a really good run. And then what that also did is open the door up for Uthrolik, our teammate, who was now well on the outside of Madriski. So we ended up looking behind, seeing that he was in the battle for 4th. We ended up getting in front of him, giving him a bit of a turn. That's all he needed to pass the checkered line in front of Dodgy and Madriski. So a very good result here for not only ourselves but also for FSR having a 3rd and a 4th. On to the 3rd and final race here, and this was a 25 lap race with the option to do a hard tyre. There were rumours of a 1-stop, it being a start on the hards and then move to the softs, or no stop, that being you start on the hards and you take it all the way to the checkered line. The grid was set out in the reverse layout of results from race 2. So as previously described in round 1's video, if you finish first in the 2nd race, you start at the back of the grid, and if you finish last in the 2nd race, you start on the front of the grid. So hard tyre, 25 laps, very similar approach to as race 2, somewhat conserving the tyres, not as much as compared to race 2, as Troy goes up on the inside of Dodgy there, open the door up for us, try and get the nose and follow him through. So we're at P8 now. We're not making as many positions up as we usually would like to have. Now back down into P9 behind Baker Boy in the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini was a somewhat decent car. It had some very good top end compared to the McLaren, but it being an all-wheel drive car, one of those cars that really burned through his tyres relatively quickly and really struggled for race 2, where soft tyres needed to be preserved to their most condition. So back up into 8th here, showing the McLaren's top line strength, and Baker here trying to get a nose up on the inside, almost getting to a bit of contact here. Unfortunately for this race, our screen recording did shit itself, so we had to go back and just video ourselves from a race replay from another person's perspective. So you may have noticed that the delta times between the person in front and behind me and the time to the leader in front is not visible. That's one of the downfalls of it being a race replay compared to the normal first person experience that I would usually do when I do my screen recordings. Up on the inside of Troy here in the Silvia, a little bit of a bump there, nothing really too major. Try and get as close as possible and line ourselves up for a really nice pass. Unfortunately, I believe Troy did block us a little bit there. I wasn't too happy with that, flashing my lights in a bit of frustration. But Troy pulls out, tries to get a pass up on Dodgy here. I also get a pass here on Dodgy. I try and make it up on the inside here of Troy, and we do go side by side into the first corner here. And Troy, who tried to brave it out around the outside, is going to soon find out why that's not the best idea. So usually you just back it out here, and still trying to stick his nose there. Unfortunately for him, by him holding that outside line, he then lets ZD through as well. So up into P5 now, and Madriski running off a little bit wide there, and we take evasive action as in practice runs, people who are running wide there were getting spat back out into the racing line and end up taking out an innocent driver. So fast forward a few laps, lap 4 now, at the slowest point of the track. We're now up into P4, getting in the back bumpers of Packer and Nuggets in the Corvette and the Alfa Romeo. up alongside here in the Corvette, and Nugget's not going to have anything of it. He's trying to shove us out of the way, and for some reason just wasn't willing to let us pass. But unfortunately for him, he ended up running himself a little bit wide there into the wall, and ended up killing his momentum. So up into P3 now, we're behind Paco in Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo was a cheat code to this race. His tyre preservation was absolutely insane compared to the other cars around it. His teammate Zidi going up on the inside in turn 1, and we're going to try and let them sort themselves out. We knew Zidi is an aggressive driver, even around his teammates, so there could have been an opportunity that Zidi could have slowed down his teammates at certain corners. So here we go, Zidi trying to make a move up here on Paco, and what I wished for is pretty much what I got. Paco really getting compromised there by Zidi's inside move. Right up on the inside now of Paco, applying as much pressure as we possibly can. And you can see that it's working. He's getting a really compromised exit, and up running himself a little bit widey into the entry into the right kink. That also did compromise us to some degree, as we had to take evasive action. But that did also open the door up for literally Nugget in the Corvette to try and send one down the inside. And he holds his own down there. Paco as well, trying to also sneak up behind Nugget and try and get past us as well. So we end up still going side by side here with Nugget, end up getting in front here, and we keep that third position. On to lap 12 now, and we have passed Zidi, who had a little bit of a mishap early on in the race. So we noticed that Madridsky was about 2.5 seconds in front of us, and with me and Zidi constantly battling, that was just going to keep opening up the gap between second and first. So lap after lap, me and Zidi were just bump passing, we're just bump drafting each other down the main straight, trying to close that gap, and eventually by lap 19 we ended up getting past Madridsky. And as a reward, we wanted to give Zidi a path through as well, so promoting him up into second, and we tried to hold him off for as long as possible. But unfortunately Zidi was really on it this week, and credit to him, he was a very quick driver this week, and the Nissan was also a very good car to have. There were times where we had some really close battles, and there's a couple of exchanges for position between second and first between us, but realistically, and at the end of the day, we just couldn't keep up with Zidi. So lap 20 here, still trying to make a pass, make it work. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, no matter what we tried, we just couldn't make it work with Zidi here. We did get a very good run here on the last lap, so we knew that if we were in about 0.2, 0.3, we might get a pass down here on the straight to the finish line. But unfortunately, we ended up choking ourselves out a little bit, turning a little too early, then realising it a bit too late. Tried to back out and correct it again, but what that did was just position the car in a really awkward place and run ourselves off into the outside wall. Fortunately for us, Madridsky was right behind us and ended up giving a bit of a bump draft up into second place. So a third, and a second. So some really good points there. Moving over to the leaderboards now, and we can see that we have leapfrogged second place and moved from P3 to P1, with Zidi right on our heels now battling for P1 on the leaderboard. So a very good round for us as we now move up into P1 on the championships. Moving over to the team side of it, we have also moved up a position from P3 to P2. So some very good points here for not only ourselves but also Future Studios Racing. We're now right on the back heels of damn Hexicans. Next round is at the Nordschleife, so whether I'll be uploading a video on that one, I'm not too sure. It might be a pretty boring race. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and thanks for watching.